What would you trade for greatness? Years of your life? Your humanity? Your very soul? Legends are born where talent and desperation collide. And in the sweltering Mississippi Delta of the early 20th century, one man's rise to fame became much more than just music. It became myth. Robert Johnson, now celebrated as one of the most influential blues musicians in history, carries a story as haunting as his melodies. Whispers of a midnight crossroads meeting and an exchange of soul for skill, and a pact with the devil himself. Welcome to Down the Crooked Path. I'm your host, Amanda Joy. Join me as we dive into eerie and spine-chilling stories that blur the lines between reality and the unknown, from cryptids and mysterious disappearances to true crime, UFO sightings, and paranormal activity. Venture into the unknown and uncover the secrets that lie down the crooked path. Today, we unravel the tale of Robert Johnson, where folklore meets reality, and music finds its roots in something far darker. Was his otherworldly talent the result of the supernatural intervention? Or is there a deeper truth to uncover? Join me as we journey into this iconic legend and the eerie crossroads of myth, music, and mystery. Robert Johnson's life remains one of the most elusive mysteries for historians and researchers. With limited documentations and much of his life story passed down through word of mouth, piecing together the events of his life has been like assembling a puzzle with missing pieces. Scholars have scoured archives, tracked down descendants, and interviewed those in connection to Johnson's legacy. Yet, much of what we know comes from folklore and speculation. From his birth to the circumstances surrounding his untimely death at the age of 27, historians must rely on fragments of information, such as 2 known photographs, 29 recorded songs, and his rediscovered death certificates to reconstruct his life. This lack of concrete evidence has allowed myths, including the infamous Crossroads legends, to flourish, leaving researchers to navigate a blend of history, myth, and cultural memory as they try to attempt to unravel the truth behind Robert Johnson's life story. Robert Johnson was born in Hazelhurst, Mississippi in 1911 to Julia Major Dodds and Noah Johnson, although his parents were never married. Before the age of 7, there were at least 3 men in his mother's life who acted as a father figure to him. She married a man named Charles Dodds, who was eventually forced to flee Hazelhurst after a confrontation with the lynch mob. This event uprooted the family and set the stage for the instability that defined Robert's upbringing. Raised in a world of systematic oppression and economic struggle, Johnson moved frequently with his mother Julia, living on various plantations across the Mississippi Delta. In 1929, he married Virginia Travis, a 16-year-old girl, and the couple seemed to offer each other hope for a better future. However, tragedy struck when Virginia, 8 months pregnant, died in childbirth along with their baby. This devastating loss profoundly affected Johnson and is often seen as a turning point in his life, pushing him deeper into his music and the nomadic lifestyle that would define his career. His travels took him across Mississippi, Arkansas, and Texas, playing in juke joints and on street corners as he sought solace and purpose through his music. Before Robert Johnson became a legend, he was known as a mediocre musician, struggling to make a mark. He was skilled on the harmonica, but lacked finesse on the guitar. He failed to impress at the juke joints and street corners. Son House, a prominent Delta blues musician, recalled Johnson as a persistent young man who was eager to play, but whose early attempts were described as a racket that annoyed listeners. Johnson's talents seemed limited, and his reputation as a guitarist was unremarkable, until he vanished. During this time, it is believed that he traveled to Hazelhurst, Mississippi, his birthplace, where he spent about a year. When Johnson reappeared in Robbinsville roughly a year later, his transformation was nothing short of astonishing, displaying guitar skills so exceptional that people were left in awe. The significant improvement led to the creation of the Crossroads legends, as audience looked for a rational explanation for what appeared extraordinary. This turning point would forever shape his legacy as both a musician and a myth. Legend tells that Johnson, desperate to make it big as a musician, ventured to a desolate crossroads under the cover of night, where he encountered a mysterious figure thought to have been the devil. Out of nowhere, a tall, dark, older black man appeared. He wore a suit and a hat, blending the appearance of a well-dressed gentleman with an aura of menace. His demeanor was calm but intimidating, and he spoke with authority. A trade was struck. For talent and skill, Johnson offered the devil his soul. The devil reached out for Johnson's guitar, who gladly handed it over. The devil tuned it, played a few songs, and handed it back. When Johnson played, it was magnificent. He was suddenly imbued with extraordinary talent. The myth of this devil deal was amplified by some of Johnson's music and lyrics. Tracks like Crossroads Blues embodied the legend of the Crossroads, with its desperate haunting plea for redemption. Hellhound on My Trail invokes an eerie sense of being haunted, blending vivid imagery with an atmosphere of paranoia and fear. In Me and the Devil Blues, Johnson leans into the myth, depicting a dark, foreboding relationship with the supernatural. On the other hand, songs like Sweet Home Chicago and I Believe I'll Dust My Broom capture his relentless and longing for escape, while Love in Vain reflects a deep personal sorrow. His intricate guitar techniques and raw, haunting falsetto brought these themes to life, creating songs that not only were deeply emotional, but also technically groundbreaking. One rumor suggests that Robert Johnson's remarkable transformation as a guitarist was the result of studying under Ike Zimmerman, a skilled musician who believed the best way to master the guitar was by practicing in a graveyard at midnight. According to this legend, Zimmerman would take his guitar to the cemetery, using the quiet, otherworldly atmosphere as the space to perfect his craft without disturbance. This belief may have been stemmed from a spiritual or superstitious practices tied to African American and Southern folklore, where cemeteries are seen as liminal spaces, gateways between the living and the dead. Robert Johnson's death is about as shrouded in mystery as the rest of his life. On August 16, 1938, at the age of 27, Johnson died under unclear conditions. This marked him as an early member of the infamous 27 Club, a group of talented artists who died at the same age, including Jimi Hendrix, Janis Joplin, Kurt Cobain, and Amy Winehouse. Theories abound as to what caused his death, with the most prevalent being that he was poisoned. Johnson was performing at a juke joint near Greenwood, Mississippi. According to accounts, he had been romantically involved with a married woman, and her jealous husband allegedly sought revenge. The husband is said to have handed Johnson a bottle of whiskey laced with strychnine, a toxic substance. One patron noticed the bottle had been opened and slapped it from Johnson's hand, who picked up the bottle and scolded the man. Johnson, unaware of the danger, drank from the bottle and began to feel ill shortly afterwards. Witnesses reported that he suffered from severe abdominal pain, vomiting, and convulsions over the next 3 days before finally succumbing to his symptoms. The lack of medical records or an autopsy has left the exact cause of Johnson's death open to speculation. At the time, the systematic racism of the Jim Crow South meant that the deaths of African Americans were often not thoroughly investigated. His death certificate, discovered decades later, lists "no doctor" as having been present and attributes his death to complications. This vagueness has fueled theories ranging from poisoning to syphilis, or even pneumonia. But without an autopsy, the truth remains elusive. The exact location of his final resting place remains enveloped in uncertainty as well. 3 locations in Mississippi claim to be his final resting place: Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, Payne Church near Quito, and Little Zion Church near Greenwood. Each site has its own advocacies and evidence, but none have been definitively proved. Now, Robert Johnson isn't the only musician rumored to be gifted talent by the devil. Faust is one of the most iconic archetypes in this mythology of deals with the devil, and his story has shaped cultural narratives for centuries. Originating from German folklore, Faust was a scholar who, dissatisfied with the limits of human knowledge and earthly pleasures, made a pact with the devil. In exchange for his soul, Faust was granted infinite knowledge, worldly success, and the fulfillment of his desires. The story of Faust was immortalized in literature by such works as Christopher Marlowe's Dr. Faustus in the 16th century. And the term Faustist bargain has since entered common usage to describe a deal where one sacrifices something of moral or spiritual significance for material gain or fleeting success. Giuseppe Tartini's The Devil's Trill Sonata is one of the most beautiful pieces of violin music. Tartini himself recounted the eerie inspiration behind the sonata in a story that has captivated audiences for centuries. According to Tartini, he dreamed one night in 1713 that he had made a pact with the devil, who appeared as a mysterious figure. In the dream, Tartini handed the devil his violin, and the devil played a sonata of such breathtaking beauty and technical brilliance that Tartini was left awestruck. Upon waking, Tartini immediately tried to recreate the music he had heard in his dream. The result was the Devil's Trill Sonata, though Tartini admitted it fell far short of the otherworldly performance he had witnessed in his dream. The Devil's Trill Sonata is a masterpiece of technical difficulty, featuring rapid trills, complex double stops, and intricate passages that challenge even the most skilled violinists. Its haunting melodies and dramatic shifts in tones invoke the supernatural, embodying the eerie origins of Tartini's devilish dreams. This interplay of brilliance and the otherworldly finds a striking parallel in Robert Johnson's music, where the themes of supernatural influence and darkness are central. Niccolo Paganini, one of history's most extraordinary violinists, was surrounded by rumors of a pact with the devil due to his almost supernatural skill and enigmatic presence. Born in Genoa, Italy in 1782, Paganini's technical mastery of the violin and his ability to captivate audiences were unparalleled. He performed with such speed, precision, and emotion that many believed his talent must have come from an otherworldly source. His appearance added to the mystique. Gaunt and pale, with long fingers that seemed almost unnatural, Paganini seemed to embody the image of a man touched by something beyond the mortal realm. His compositions, like the 24 Caprices, demand techniques that are so advanced that they left the audience and even fellow musicians in awe, further fueling whispers of his alleged deal with the devil. Paganini never outright denied these rumors, allowing the myth to grow and cement his legacy. Some accounts suggest that he even leaned into the speculation, seeing it as a way to enhance his enigmatic allure. This connection between Paganini and the devil ties directly to the bordering symbolism of the violin. Its haunting tones, capable of evoking both sorrow and ecstasy, have long been associated with the supernatural. In folklore and classical music, violin often appears as an instrument of choice for the devil, as seen in the works like Saint Cian's Danse Macabre, where death plays the violin to summon the dead. And in some Christian traditions during the Middle Ages, the violin was viewed as an instrument of sin, its lively and seductive sound seen as corrupting. Tommy Johnson, a pioneering Delta blues musician, is often associated with one of the earliest Crossroads legends, claiming to have sold his soul to the devil in exchange for his extraordinary talents. Born in 1896 near Terry, Mississippi, Tommy Johnson developed a distinctive falsetto voice and intricate guitar style that set him apart from his contemporaries. Unlike Robert Johnson, to whom he was not related despite sharing the same surname, Tommy openly spoke of his supposed deal with the devil, a story he reportedly shared to enhance his mystique and draw attention to his performances. According to the tale, Tommy Johnson said he went to a crossroads at midnight, where a large, shadowy figure tuned his guitar and handed it back to him, now embodied with supernatural talent. The story became a defining part of his legacy, feeding into the broader cultural narrative of the devil as a patron of musicians. This myth predates Robert Johnson's similar legend and may have influenced the folklore surrounding Robert's life and music. Robert Johnson's musical talent was not the only reason for the rumors about a pact with the devil. His unique behavior also contributed to the myths regarding his exceptional abilities and alleged agreement. One of the most striking aspects of his guitar playing was how often it sounded as though there were two musicians performing simultaneously. Although now, most musicians believe this was due to his masterful use of thumb picking for bass lines and intricate fingerstyle techniques for melody, creating an illusion of dual instrumentation. The seamless complexity of his music left audiences in awe, with some even speculating that such a skill could only be supernatural. Another habit that often contributed to the legend was Johnson's tendency to turn his back to others during recording sessions and live performances. Those who witnessed him play recounted how he seemed intentionally secretive, hiding his hands and fingers from view. This led to rumors that he was concealing the true source of his talent, suggesting that it wasn't actually him playing, but instead a manifestation of his devilish deal. His behavior, whether due to shyness, privacy, or another reason, enhanced his mystique and made his legend all the more compelling. The figure of the devil in Robert Johnson's music and the Crossroads myth may not solely reflect the Christian concept of Satan, but could also draw from African spiritual traditions, particularly the figure of Papa Legba. Papa Legba is one of the most significant and fascinating figures in African spiritual traditions, particularly in Haitian voodoo, West African voodoo, and Louisiana voodoo. He is Alao, a spirit who serves as the intermediary between humanity and the divine, often referred to as the gatekeeper. Papa Legba is the guardian of the Crossroads, a sacred space symbolizing choice, transition, and the intersection of the physical and the spiritual world. No communications with other spirits can occur without his permission, making him first and last spirit invoked in voodoo ceremonies. Legba's origins trace back to the Dahomey Kingdom in West Africa, now modern-day Benin, where he was a central figure in voodoo practices. When enslaved Africans were brought to the Americas, they carried their spiritual beliefs with them, and Legba's role evolved within the intricate religions that emerged. In Haitian voodoo, he is often associated with Catholic saints like St. Peter or St. Anthony, reflecting the blending of African traditions with Christianity. Papa Legba is typically depicted as an old man with a cane or crutch, wearing a straw hat, and often accompanied by a dog, which is sacred to him. He is known for his wisdom, eloquence, and playful trickster nature. Offerings to Legba include tomatoes, rum, candy, coins, or his verb, a symbolic drawing used in rituals, incorporates a weeping cane or crossroads imagery. In the context of blues mythology and the Crossroads legend, some scholars suggest that the devil in Robert Johnson's story may have been a reinterpretation of Papa Legba. As the guardian of the Crossroads, Legba embodies the idea of making choices and seeking guidance, which aligns with the themes of transformation and ambition in Johnson's myth. This interpretation suggests that Johnson's supposed deal at the Crossroads could be seen as a metaphor for seeking inspiration, talent, or a deeper connection to the spiritual world rather than a literal pact with Satan. The Crossroads hold a deep and enduring place in mythology as well, especially in stories involving the devil and demons. In many cultures, Crossroads is seen as a liminal space, places where boundaries between worlds blur, making them symbolic points of transition, choice, and power. These locations, where paths intersect, are often believed to be spiritually charged, making them ideal settings for supernatural encounters and pivotal decisions. In European folklore, Crossroads are believed to be haunted by spirits, devils, or witches, making them places to avoid at night. Criminals were sometimes buried at Crossroads to confuse their spirits and prevent them from returning to haunt the living. This sinister association made Crossroads a natural setting for tales involving pacts with demonic entities. In Christian traditions, Crossroads came to symbolize temptation and moral conflict, with figures like the devil appearing to offer deals that test human souls. The idea of summoning a supernatural being at a crossroads to gain knowledge or power is seen in stories across cultures. In Japanese mythology, crossroads are also thought to be inhabited by spirits or yokai. The crossroads as a setting in the devil or demon myths reflects humanity's fascination with moments of transformation, moral choice, and the unknown. Papa Legba's association with the crossroads and his role as a gatekeeper ties seamlessly into another evocative figure in Robert Johnson's music, the hellhound. The imagery of hellhounds, particularly in Johnson's haunting track, Hellhound on My Trail, invokes a sense of relentless pursuit, dread, and an inescapable fate. In folklore, hellhounds are supernatural creatures, often depicted as demonic black dogs, who are said to guard the underworld or hunt down lost souls. Their presence in myths and legends symbolize punishment, death, or spirit reckoning. In Greek mythology, Cerberus, a three-headed dog, guards the gates of the underworld, preventing the dead from escaping. In Norse mythology, there's Gemar, a mysterious hound that stands sentinel at the gates of hell. These figures emphasize the role of the dog as a guardian of liminal spaces, much like the Crossroads, where Johnson's legendary deal is said to have occurred. In European folklore, black dogs are often depicted as omens of death or harbingers of doom. Tales of spectral hounds, such as the Black Shuck in England, describe fearsome, glowing-eyed beasts that haunt the rural roads and crossroads, adding to the sinister association. In Appalachian and Southern folklore, influenced by African and European traditions, the hellhound motif often symbolizes the idea of being pursued by guilt, fate, or even damned forces, a theme that resonates deeply in Johnson's haunting lyrics. Johnson's reference to the hellhounds can be interpreted in various ways. On a personal level, it may reflect his inner struggles, whether with guilt, fear, or the hardships of life. On a broader mythological scale, the hellhound imagery intertwines with that Crossroads legend, reinforcing the idea of a man haunted by forces beyond his control. The legend of Robert Johnson's supposed deal with the devil is often painted as a cautionary tale, not just of remarkable talent, but also of the potential price paid for such a pact. If the myth is to be believed, Johnson's deal brought him extraordinary skill and artistry, but not the fame and fortune that many might have expected. During his lifetime, he only achieved a limited amount of success, with just one modest hit, Terraplane Blues, and his name largely unknown outside of jukebox joints and street corners where he performed. His talent, while undeniable, did not translate into financial stability or widespread recognition until long after his death. After all, his deal was for talent and skill, not success or fame. But perhaps his lack of fame and fortune wasn't due to the curse of a devil, but the curse of white men. Robert Johnson's inability to book major concert halls during his lifetime was likely a reflection of systematic racism and social barriers of the era, rather than any other supernatural influences. In the 1930s, the United States was deeply segregated, and opportunities for Black musicians were severely limited. The music industry, like many other sectors, was dominated by white gatekeepers who often committed Black artists to performing in jukebox joints, street corners, and small community gatherings. These venues, while culturally significant, lacked the prestige and financial rewards of larger concert halls. The Delta blues, the genre Johnson excelled in, was also viewed as a regional and niche style of music at the time, primarily associated with the struggles of African American communities in the South. This limited artists like Johnson, whose talent was recognized by those whose audience was restricted by racial and economic barriers. The idea that his lack of mainstream success was due to a deal with the devil is a myth that overshadows the harsh realities of systemic discrimination and the limited opportunities available to Black musicians in his time. Further contributing to the idea of a cursed existence are the unfortunate events that marked his brief life. By the age of 22, Johnson had been widowed twice. His first wife, Virginia Travis, died in childbirth along with their infant, a loss that devastated him. Later, his second wife, Claretta Craft, also passed away unexpected, leaving him alone once again. After this, he had a string of failed relationships and stayed shortly with women in towns he passed through. One of the most bizarre incidents occurred when Johnson was reportedly struck by a truck. Witnesses were dumbfounded, not only by the accident itself, but also by his seemingly miraculous survival. Despite his challenges, Johnson's music has created a legacy that has significantly impacted numerous artists across various genres, including Bob Dylan. Dylan's first encountered Johnson's music in the early 1960s when he listened to the compilation album King of the Delta Blues Singers. He described the experience as transformative, noting that Johnson's haunting voice and intricate guitar playing had left him numb and deeply moved. Dylan admired how Johnson's songs like Crossroads Blues and Hellhounds on My Trail combined raw emotion with poetic storytelling, creating a sense of depth and mystery that resonated with him. The connection between the two goes deeper than the realm of myth and legend. Just as Johnson's tale of a deal with the devil at the Crossroads became central to his mystique, Dylan has faced similar rumors. These stories gained traction after Dylan's famous 2004 interview with Ed Bradley on 60 Minutes. When asked about the longevity of his career, Dylan cryptically replied that he had made a bargain to get to where he is now. While he didn't specifically say the nature of this bargain, his phrasing led some to speculate that, like Johnson, Dylan might have struck a supernatural deal for his talents and success. However, Dylan's own exploration of themes like devil, faith, and spiritual struggles offer more a metaphorical explanation. Songs such as Gotta Serve Somebody reflect his philosophical wrestling with the forces of good and evil, and his lyrical fascination with the cost of ambition and fame. Whether rooted in literal beliefs or artistic storytelling, Dylan's music continues the legacy of Johnson's Crossroad myth. Just as Dylan absorbed Johnson's raw emotion and poetic complexity, shaping his own music, artists like Eric Clapton and the Rolling Stones found similar wellsprings of inspiration in Johnson's groundbreaking work. Clapton, in particular, revered Johnson, calling him the most important blues musician who ever lived, and paid tribute to him through covers like Crossroads, and an entire album dedicated to Johnson's songs, Me and Mr. Johnson. The Rolling Stones also celebrated Johnson's legacy, famously covering Love in Vain on their album Let It Bleed. Keith Richards spoke of being awestruck by Johnson's ability to make his guitar sound like an entire band. For both Clapton and the Stones, Johnson wasn't merely a bluesman. He was a cornerstone of their musical foundation, shaping the evolution of blues, rock, and their intersections. Robert Johnson's life and legacy are a testament to the combination of myth, music, and culture that have captured the interests of many over the years. His story, a fusion of folklore and raw human experience, transcend time, embodying both the beauty and the burden of extraordinary talent. Whether his infamous pact was literal or metaphorical, Johnson's career remains a poignant reminder that genius often walks hand in hand with struggle, and that success, however measured, doesn't come without its price. One wonders what he would think of his lasting impact. Would he marvel at the way his music has inspired legends like Dylan, Clapton, and the Stones? Or the way his name has become synonymous with the very soul of blues? His work, steeped in supernatural imagery and profound emotional reconnaissance, has transcended its humble beginnings, offering a legacy that reminds us not only of the human condition, but also of its mysterious forces, both real and imagined, that shape our lives. Johnson's mythos, like his music, lingers in the cultural consciousness, forever haunting and inspiring, much like the Crossroads itself, a place where paths diverge, destinies are shaped, and legends are born. This is Amanda Joy signing off. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and let the music and mysteries guide your steps.